While the altcoin market is starting the day off in the red, with some altcoins down as much as 50% just in the last couple hours. And as a result of this big pullback that we're seeing here in the altcoin market, I wanted to make a video for you all going over exactly what I think is happening and why I think this is happening, what I'm doing right now, and what I'm expecting next. So we have a good bit to get into today. But before we do, guys, I need you to understand that if you are trading in this crypto market right now, you can actually check out the link to BTCC down below. And if you sign up, deposit, and start trading with my link on BTCC, they're going to give you up to $10,000 in bonuses and lower trading fees. And guys, listen, this can go a very long way in a market like this because all the extra cash and all the extra rewards we can get when the market's down can compound into some juicy gains when the market comes back. So feel free to check that out down below and let me know what you think. But as I mentioned before, listen, the altcoin market is taking an absolute beating right now. If we actually look at total 2, which is just the total market cap of altcoins, you can see this bad boy went all the way from 1.7 trillion to 1.5 trillion just over the last couple of days, with things like Ethereum falling back to around and below $4,000, Solana back and around below $200, XRP now below $3, SWI now back around $3.20. I mean, the market is going through it. And so first and foremost, let's talk about why I think this altcoin market is pulling back, and then I'll tell you a little bit about exactly what I'm doing right now. So the reason why I believe that the altcoin market is pulling back is very simple. This is a post-catalyst reset, cool down, pullback, whatever you want to call it. And we talked about this a couple days ago. In a video a couple days ago, I told you all, listen, don't be surprised if this pullback does continue on a little bit further, because what we're seeing right now isn't unusual. A pullback in this exact scenario that we're in right now is actually rather normal. If you look at historical performative data, especially in the crypto market and the stock market, what you will notice is that oftentimes after major catalytic events or catalysts, what you will see is some sort of period, like 1 week to 3 weeks, in which that asset class that was impacted by that catalytic event, it doesn't actually perform very well. It's extremely normal for a big event like the crypto halving to happen, and then 2 weeks after it, the market actually falls. And this is simply just called a buy the rumor, sell the news event, something I'm sure you've heard a million times by now. But that's all that it is. It's a normal thing that happens. And what we're seeing in crypto right now, in my opinion, is nothing more than that. And so because of this, I'm not scared of it. It doesn't freak me out. It doesn't bother me. I'm aware that this is a normal thing that happens. Now, is it being made a little bit worse than usual by those lizard people manipulating the market? 100%. As I mentioned before, one of the biggest liquidation events in history happened just a few days ago. So of course we're seeing this market being manipulated. Of course it's more volatile and worse than it normally would be in general. But the core root of what is happening right now is not that big a deal. It's not something that should be super scary. As a matter of fact, I look at this as more of an opportunity than anything else. Now, the reason why I look at this as an opportunity is because many of you know that I follow the dynamic holding strategy. And this is something that I've done for years now, and it's kept me profitable every single year that I've been in crypto. And the reason why this is such a good thing in a moment like this is because dynamic holding strategy says that when you're in a bull market and you're seeing the prices falling, they're approaching short-term or mid-term support levels, it is a buying opportunity. It is time to buy. And I don't deviate from my strategies. What my strategy says is what I do. And so on a day like today, when the market is falling and we are approaching some of these macro levels with oversold signals, this says it's an opportunity. So I think it's an opportunity. And I go in and I do what? I do a little bit of dollar cost averaging. And so what I want to do is I actually want to show you my logic behind where I dollar cost average and how much I dollar cost average with a few cryptos like Ethereum, Solana, and XRP. And then you can go apply it to your own portfolio if it does make sense for you. So when I look at Ethereum, okay, I'm looking at this from this perspective. I say, okay, ETH clearly just broke to the bottom side of this massive ascending structure, and it came back down to a pretty important level of support, a midterm level of support that we've been holding up for the last couple weeks. Well, what we can see is that Ethereum's price broke through the bottom side of that structure, but it is still running into support at $4,000. So this is still a rather important level of support for the Ethereum price. Now, it's not falling so far down that we're creating new macro lower lows or anything. I mean, we're still clearly setting higher lows. So right now, ETH is still in an uptrend as long as it puts in a high above this previous high at 33.82. So my thinking is, okay, we still are at a massive, a pretty important level of support, a massive level of support. We're still setting an uptrend. We have our indicators showing oversold signals, not only on the 4-hour, but ETH is actually getting very close on the 1 day, which rarely ever happens. I mean, that hasn't happened since April. And so because of all of these things, I think that this is a midterm support. This is a midterm level in which we easily could start to see some sort of more macro bounce. So what am I doing? Well, according to dynamic dynamic holding strategy at a midterm support level with oversold signals, I will be doing medium buys because we're later in the cycle. If we were earlier in the cycle, I would do big buys, but I'm doing medium buys because we're later in the cycle. And so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna deploy a little bit of cash on ETH at this $4,000 level. And you know what the beautiful part about it is? Do you guys remember just about 2 weeks ago on September 12th, we took profit off the table where we closed down like $5,000 or $6,000 in profit from Ethereum? Well, guess what? Now some of that $5,000 or $6,000 in cash that we pulled from ETH can go back in and I can attempt to compound those gains. Now, the worst case scenario is that ETH just nukes straight through that $4,000 level, continues even lower, and the purchase I did right here just goes in the red. But remember, I'm buying with profit. So even if that does happen, it's not a big deal because we're reinvesting profit. So yeah, I'm sure I'm losing a little bit of profit, but my initial investment isn't being hurt. It's actually not much of a risk. I'm trying to recompound some of those profits, and the risk is that I just lose a little profit. Totally fine by me. And so with ETH, yes, I go in, I do some pretty medium-sized purchases, again, according to dynamic holding strategy. When I go to Solana, for example, what's Solana doing right now? Well, Solana is a bit of a different story because Solana is now breaking through the bottom side of this triangle right here. I told you all to be on the lookout for this. I told you all to watch this, and I told you all to be careful. I made a video yesterday talking about this, telling you to be very careful. And what you can see is Solana is now trying to break through the bottom side of that support. And so my current strategy with Solana, for example, is, well, we're breaking through support right now. We don't really have any macro levels of support right here. The next one isn't until $186, which was this previous liquidity level back here and this previous point of resistance. So for Solana, since we're not approaching a key support level, I guess $200 is a psychological level, but it's not showing much strength right now. But since we're not approaching a major level of support and our daily RSI, for example, isn't super oversold, and there is still the risk that we continue to break through this triangle, I'm going to wait to accumulate Solana until we hit 186. Okay. So I'm not doing any buying on Solana right now because we're not at a macro support level and we're not seeing enough of those oversold signals that I would need to see with this current little move here. Okay, so that's when I look at Solana, we don't check the boxes to do some accumulating, so I'm not buying any Solana right now. But again, we took like $5,000 or $10,000 worth of profit off Solana up here, so it's fine. Like we don't need to be in a rush. My dollar cost average, or my average price, sorry, for Solana is still at $33 or $36 or something like that. So we don't need to be in a rush to purchase right here. I still think there is a risk and a threat of us pulling back to 186, so I'm just going to wait it out. Okay, XRP. What's XRP's price doing? Well, XRP's price is now still coming back down, and it is still holding up very well on this midterm level of support. This is a massive level of support that we have been holding for the last 3 or 4 months. And as it is coming down to the support level, we're seeing its daily RSI kind of holding up flat. But if you look at that 4-hour RSI, this bad boy did actually make a pretty decent move towards the upside there. And so what XRP looks like to me is like, okay, we're holding up some support. We're seeing some good signs and signals that XRP is doing a good job at maintaining here, especially on a day like today where, say, for example, ETH is down 3.6%, but XRP is only down 2.4%. I actually think that XRP is showing a little bit of strength here. It's showing some signals that this support, this macro support, might hold. Not is going to hold, but it might hold. And so what do? Well, whenever we have a situation in which it says that the market could bounce, well, guess what? We go in, we do a little bit of purchasing on a red day in a bull market according to dynamic holding strategy. And so for XRP, I'm going to do a small purchase, not a huge purchase, but a small purchase because I like the strength that XRP is showing here. And that's, of course, the way that I would play this. Now, let's just look at one more random example. Let's look at SWI, for example, okay? So whenever I look at SWI, what's happening with SWI? Well, SWI's price was in this huge ascending channel that I told you all to be very careful about. Gladly, we took some profit off of SWI right here, about $3,000 of profit off of SWI at like $3.90. SWI's price got rejected, came back down, and it is now trying to come back down and flip this previous point of support right here into a support. Now, this is micro support. This is a tiny level of support. This is not a big level of support whatsoever, but it is a support level. And if we look at the 4-hour RSI, at the same time we're approaching that micro level of support, we're seeing an overextension to the downside from our indicators. So, of course, according to dynamic holding strategy, when we're approaching a short-term support level with an oversold signal, I'll do a tiny buy or no buy, just depending on what I want to do. But since I like SWI, and I did just lock in a ton of profit from SWI up here, I'm happy to throw a little bit of extra SWI in right here and see if that we can try to catch a bounce off of this. So I'm going to buy a little bit of SWI right around this $3.20 level, and we'll just just play it out. It's only a tiny purchase, so it doesn't matter if it goes down. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It is what it is. Best case scenario, some of the profit that we took right here, we can compound it in a decent purchase right here. You see, dynamic holding strategy isn't something that's complicated. It's very simple. Whenever the market is falling, depending on what sort of support we have and what our indicators are doing, we'll either do small buys all the way up to big purchases. And when the market pumps, depending on what our indicators are showing and what resistance we're approaching, we'll do small sales to big sales. And you repeat this over and over and over again up until a point where you're locking in a ton of profit over time and you can really see the results of it, right? So for example, if I go out to the Bitcoin chart in which I've been implementing dynamic holding strategy for the last few years, you can see roughly where some of our biggest purchases and our biggest take profits have been. This is what you want to do. Buy the lows and sell the highs, and that's what I'm doing. So sure, is the altcoin market looking a little bit ugly today? Yes. Is it pulling back and it could be a little bit concerning? Yes. Could this get a lot worse from here? Yes. But at the end of the day, we can't control any of that. All we can control is what we can control. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to do my dollar cost averages and knowing that my strategy says so and knowing that I'm buying against the grain. While everybody's scared and everybody's worried because all their bags are down, I'm jumping in and I'm doing some purchasing. And gladly, again, we took profit off the table recently, so we have some cash to play with in a moment like this. So I'll keep you updated as it plays out. I'll keep you updated as we do go forward from here. Don't forget that I do post over on Instagram every single day analysis of all these alts: Ethereum, XRP, Solana, Bitcoin, all the cryptos that you can think of, and that I talk about here on the channel, I post about over there. So feel free to go follow me on Instagram at The Life of Tyler Hill. You'll see a little bit of personal stuff about me, my fighting career, all that stuff. And then, of course, you can see some analysis there. So feel free to go follow me there. Make sure to go get your up to $10,000 in bonuses and lower trading fees over on BTCC and just lock in right now, right? This is a moment where everyone's scared. You guys know what to do. We go against the grain. We don't do anything big. No need for really big purchases or anything right now, but we go against the grain. We buy in the fear. We lock in. And if this market falls, it falls. We're wrong. But if it doesn't, we're in a good spot. And at the end of the day, we'll still be able to chase some pretty good gains from there. And so I'll keep you updated as it plays out. I hope you guys did enjoy today's quick video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.